afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join the Dennis Kloese conference call. Today on the call, we're going to feature LA Galaxy General Manager, Dennis Kloese. We're going to lead things off with a question from LA Times writer Kevin Baxter, and I'm going to turn it over to Dennis Kloese now.
Hey, Dennis, congratulations.
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Thank you very much.
Jaime Cardenas sends his greetings. Welcome back to the StubHub Center. What inspired you, or what led for your decision to come back? I mean, you've been here once, you've done it, you succeeded. You seem to have a pretty good job in Mexico. What made you decide that you wanted to come back?
Yeah, first of all, good afternoon. I appreciate everybody on the call to reach out and show an interest. First of all, I'm very excited to be here. I know through different things it took a little bit of a while to get settled in and make everything as formal and as open as possible. Recently, I started speaking to people at the Galaxy on different things, and I think one of the things is that they've obviously had a stretch of rough seasons. There's, I think, a big opportunity in this area for all the other areas where they really care about, which they make me feel that they care about, which is their youth development program, their scouting program. Obviously, there's a whole lot of things that need to be figured out. What made me excited is that I've always kept an eye on the development within MLS of their youth programs, the development of young players that we at one point also started to get in our programs at the Mexican national team. It has to do that obviously a process or a program that I started years ago. I was always excited about the academy at that point here in Southern California, and I always thought with good resources, with good people, with an organization such as the Galaxy, which is very serious and obviously very much supported by a big company like AAG, I think there's a whole lot of positives that you can take out of it. And looking at the current status of the team with obviously certain needs, with a process that needs to be started and going forward on the first team, but also a whole lot of things that I think I can add to and I can complement on other different areas, such as their academy and such as their scouting efforts, and to create a structure and a good culture and a professional environment for our players and every staff member to grow and to be as where the Galaxy wants to be and should be. I think also what attracted me a lot is that obviously the Galaxy is renowned here nationwide, but also internationally. This is something that I really got excited about, and I think that is something that at some point I think my ambitions also go towards creating something here, different move in my career. I've been a long time in the Mexican national team program, starting in 2011 in the youth program, or in charge of the youth national teams. I've gone through a whole lot of events, a whole lot of experiences. I think we had good results. I think we had results where we could have been better. And in the end, I've been a big part of the full national team women's program, and I think I can add something with my experience to this great organization, which, to be honest, I need to be very thankful to Chris Klein to invite me, to Dan Beckerman on behalf of AAG to have me on board and part of this family. And I also need to be very, very thankful to the Mexican Federation, John De Luisa, their president, and Guillermo Cantua, their general director, on giving me this opportunity to grow. And it's the reason to be here is based on ambition and on sporting reasons, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, welcome back. Thank you very much.
We'll go to Scott French with MLSsoccer.com with the next question.
Hi, Dennis. Welcome back to LA.
Thank you very much, Scott, and good to hear from you.
Well, I've got, I guess, a kind of a multi-part question. One, at what point did you start talking to the Galaxy? At what point did all of this come together? What do you see as being your main priorities to start off with? And how is the situation with Zlatan Ibrahimovic and bringing him back to the club?
So, okay, that's a few questions, Scott. I'll go with the first one. I've only been speaking to the Galaxy formally until recently. To be honest, I think also as I owe a lot of respect to the place that I've worked for and represented for a long time and always with great pride, which is the Mexican Federation. I think this. I needed to think this through. I needed to get my head around certain things where I wanted to go. It is obviously a family aspect to the whole thing. I've lived here in this area before, but I had no kids at that point. But little by little thinking, speaking to my family, looking at the ambitions, speaking to the people here at the club like Chris and Dan, getting to know a little bit more of the staff. Little by little I got very, and I am very excited. And I'm a firm believer that there's a whole lot of opportunities in this area. I always thought that within the United States, Southern California is special for soccer. I always, as you know, and I've always been directly or indirectly involved here in all kinds of activities such as scouting and player recruitment and being as active as I can and giving opportunities to people that I think have done an interesting job also in our national team program. And that is what got me here at a certain point, but it's been very, very recent, to be honest. It's actually become very fast. I know that there has been some rumors out there, but until it's formal, I think the best way is to announce it, which is today. The other question is on the priorities that you're asking me for. I think obviously a high priority is first of all assess and evaluate where we're at. There is a big priority obviously on installing and coming up with the best technical staff to run our roster for the coming seasons. And those are things that obviously are big decisions. And I know that there have been talks from the Galaxy to certain people, and I'll pick it up, and I picked that up. And hopefully we can move forward as quick as possible. There is also, from speaking to Dan Beckerman and Chris, there is a high priority on structurizing and having a much higher connection in between the first team, the second team, and the academy. So I hope to get obviously a clear idea and evaluate as quick as possible, because as you know, soccer doesn't stop and there is competition. There is a whole lot of people that also obviously are doing a good job, and we need to be with high energy and competitive. We need to be with a clear idea of where we want to go. We have to have a clear identity in how we develop our players. And I do think that is a big challenge, because obviously the first team of the Galaxy has always and will always be known as a place for high profile and high name players which make a direct impact and carry the team to big success. But I think there is also a need for a little bit of a more local identity close to those players, or being part of the group that actually the Galaxy has invested highly in the last few years. So that is, I think, something that I can share with you. And then there was another thing. I'm sorry, Scott?
Zlatan?
Yeah, we're obviously speaking to him, and with me now coming in and obviously creating and having a relationship with him, I hope that goes into a positive way. But until there's nothing formal, we can't really do too much announcement on that right now.
Well, as a follow-up, you mentioned technical staff. There's been reports that the club is looking very closely at and supposedly close to hiring Jason Christ. Can you comment on that?
Well, I think it wouldn't be respectful to the candidates that we're speaking to at the moment to go into names, and I think I would like to leave it like that, and at some point better come out with a formal statement instead of going into names and just making it even more a guessing game.
Great. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
We're going to take a question from ESPN FC's Jeff Carlisle.
Thank you, Brendan. Dennis, what does this all mean for Dominic Kinnear? I mean, obviously he was the interim coach at the end of last year. Is he going to be staying on, or can you shed any light on that?
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm well.
Well, I think the best thing is for us to come out with a firm statement on what the staff will formally look like. First of all, my respect to Dominic, because at the end of last season and the positive stretch, even though they ended up a little bit short to make it to the playoffs, but I think you see that he's been a big part of the turnaround. He's a man that has pedigree, that has quality, somebody that also obviously has been a proven factor in this league. And I think it wouldn't be fair to go into the exact details, but at least from my end, there's a deep respect for his work, not only here, but in obviously in the history of the league.
Okay, thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Jeff. We're going to take a question from Corner at Galaxy's Josh Gessman.
All right, welcome back to LA, Dennis. My question is, the Galaxy made a lot of moves in 2018 and didn't fix all of their issues. Now looking at 2019, do you feel like you have room around the salary cap to fix a lot of the glaring issues, and how do you see your maneuverability there within the 2019 structure?
Hi, how are you? Now, to be honest, I think not only on the roster but also on technical staff, and a lot of personnel changes have been made in the last 2 years, I would say. And it would be a little bit unfair for me to put a judgment out on that. I'd like to look forward, and I'd like to look to things that come. But I think an organization as renowned and as successful as the Galaxy, there is something to it when you have so many personnel changes and so much overhaul of staff. To be honest, to give a judgment on that on the last year or even 2 years, I think wouldn't be fair. What I would do is go forward. There is obviously within the league rules and regulations and everything that needs to be clear, that there is obviously a whole lot of players that are locked in for the coming year, and there is a reality to that. On the other hand, I do think there is some room, but we need to be creative. We're working on that hard. And the other question was one of the priorities. I think it starts with a technical staff and give obviously authority and a clear vote of confidence to the staff and anybody that comes in. So I think the more in-depth conversations on roster and anything that is very, very important and going for us forward, not only this year but also obviously making decisions that obviously affect the coming years, will be step by step.
Thanks, Dennis.
We're going to take a question from The Athletic's Pablo Maurer. Pablo?
Thanks, Brendan. Dennis, thanks for making the time to do this. I wonder, obviously it's been reported the past couple of days that there's a lot of time will be back in LA next year, and more recently that the club has sort of renegotiated his deal at a higher rate. I wonder if you could shed any light on whether the Galaxy is planning to make him a designated player. And just as a quick follow-up question to that, I'm wondering if the club is sort of actively seeking to move Gio dos Santos in some way, be it by buying his contract out, selling him to a team, and paying part of that. I wonder if you could shed light on either of those two things.
Yeah, well, I do think with speaking to Zlatan, he has a positive feeling for being here. His family, his wife, and two sons are much more settled in. I think what is most important on the field last year, he made a direct impact as from day one. I think all these questions also are geared a little bit towards the coaching stuff, but I think these things are obviously all positive, which if it adds up, it would be something that it needs to for the Galaxy, it needs to add to our ambitions for next year. And when everything would be formal or finalized or everything, then we'll come out with something more on that. To be honest, I do think that there is a whole lot of positives to that, and that is my personal opinion, being here only for a little bit of time and looking at obviously from the outside in uncertain aspects. On Giovanni, I can tell you that I've known him for many years. I know him, I know his family. I think there is, as a high-profile player, there's obligations and there's responsibilities. There is obviously, this is a competitive industry. We need to win. We need to be very good. I think my relation with brothers Jonathan and Giovanni has nothing to do with my responsibilities here at the Galaxy, and will always and without any doubt will take the best decision for the team, for the organization, either that Giovanni or any other player. I think there's a big opportunity obviously for us to grow, and Giovanni, I must say, is a talented player, but the last 2 seasons have been difficult for him, and I mean, we have to sit down and discuss it man to man and then see where it goes, and as I said, the technical staff and the head coach has a good saying.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pablo, we're going to go to Damian Calhoun with the Daily Breeze. Damian?
Dennis, how you doing?
How are you, Damian?
I'm doing great. Can you clarify what you meant earlier? You said the need for a local identity within the club. Is going forward, do you think we'll see more guys from the academy make their way up to the first team?
To be honest, I've always been a firm believer that in Southern California and in this area there is a big pool of talent. It's not something that has been something from the last few years. That's been 4 years. I think the Galaxy, they're part of an exciting city. It's a diverse city. There's a whole lot of different communities that could add to that. I think there's a big opportunity for us to improve on that, on formalizing our academy product, professionalizing our academy, carry ourselves maybe sometimes in a different way, being more open to opportunities, being also more clear on what the expectations and what the pathway would be for players that come in. And at some point it ends up, if there's players that honestly get an opportunity so that other players can follow. And I, not only from my professional obligations at the club, it's something personal I've always liked to do. I started working in Mexico 15 years ago as head of the youth development part of Chivas. I've done it in Tigres in Monterrey, and big part of my career at the federation, I've ran the youth national teams, which I think has turned into a very positive and a project that had continuity. And then you can only get that with a professional project. And I do think that if you look at a local identity, if you go to big clubs in the world, as we should be considering also ourselves, there is opportunities for young players. And I've come from a culture where that is quite normal, as in Holland it is. I've worked in an environment where it's necessary and it's something that is also normal, such as in Mexico. And years ago, being in this area, I've always admired the amount of talent and high quality of players that come out of this area. And I think we should take advantage of it. And on the other hand, we have an obligation also, because there's a lot of resources that's been put to this program. If you look at our academy, how they're organized, and obviously having the Galaxy 2 in this as part of their development. And I think, and I hope, and I'm sure with my experience and evaluating that we're going to lift this to a different level, that said that at some point there is honest and good opportunities for players to make it to the first team, which is not an easy step, and it's not obviously the only part of our identity, because that is something that little by little will grow into. But I think it's an important part that we need to take care of.
Thank you.
We're going to take a question from Paul Kennedy with Soccer America. Paul?
Hi, thanks for taking the time today. Dennis, the question I have for you is to follow up what you just said. What can the club do to keep players from its academy program like Alex Mendez and Uli Lanes, who are going to Germany? And also next season, what do you think are the chances, and what would Efrain Alvarez need to do to contribute to the first team?
Yeah, to be honest, first of all, I'd like to say that both players are high-quality players. I think, and I can judge the circumstances why they are not on our program. I do think that we need to take this very seriously as a club, and you know me that I've always really cared about talent in this area or anywhere in the United States to give an opportunity. Then in the end, what they do with it is obviously, but that they need to be helped and pushed and given a clear idea on where to go to. And to be honest, if you go into Efra, who I know very well, who's on the U17 Mexican national team, I think there's two very big challenges for him. There's qualifiers in the upcoming year for the U17 World Cup. And by the end of the year, there's a World Cup in Peru. Knowing the program and actually having a big hand in that, it's obviously a lot of traveling for him. He'll be present in a lot of camps. In the meantime, I think he needs to be challenged here to further develop. The first signs of a promising and talented players are there for sure. Now, how can we get him in a more competitive environment so that he really shows what he's worth of, and for sure talented? And now it's also up to us to help that and to get the best out of him so that he serves as somebody that other kids in the academy and obviously people that are in this area look up to and say, you know what, there is an opportunity, and it's a fair opportunity also. And a lot of that goes, like I said, goes also to our technical staff and how we build our identity and how we build our club, and that our technical staff needs to be open to that, because there's a lot of investment going towards that, a lot of resources. But on the other hand, it's a golden opportunity. There is a lot of talent, and it's shown over the last few years that you can get players out of this area which grow into very competitive and good players, not only here but abroad in different national team programs. And I think it's something that is one of the things that I'm very, very excited about.
Thank you, Paul. I think we're going to take one last question from Adam Serrano with LAGalaxy.com. Adam?
Dennis, you mentioned at length the academy and your plans to develop the group. When you look at the second team, how important is that to this project, and how do you see different ways to help with that part of the pipeline and really connect it to the first team?
Yeah, I do think that in an earlier question, what are now coming in your highest priorities? So obviously the highest priority goes to our first team. There's a whole bunch of things on the table regarding players, decisions. Obviously the coaching decision is, and the technical staff decision is the highest priority. If you work your way down, I think a connection in between the first team and the second team for our coaching staff, for our players, to take advantage of that structure and the possibility to integrate that, I think is very big. And I do think Also a little bit from the outside, looking at the current competition structure, I do think that a lot of players develop through competition. It is training, it is good coaching, good mentorship, people that are around the players that obviously guide them in the right direction, but you need good competition also. And I think the decision on players moving up, going to a second team, to a reserve team, as we could even call it, as the Galaxy 2 is, I think those are important decisions, and you really need to sit down, what are the arguments and the details on a decision like that, and take care of it, because obviously I think that we need to take much more advantage of that. We need to connect it much more to our academy on one side and to our first team on the other side, and that's a big part of my responsibilities to obviously push the coaching staff on the first team towards looking at that in a way that it doesn't affect the high priority of winning and being good on the first team, and also finding a balance in between winning but also developing on the second team, and finding the right way to get guys in positions where they actually could raise their hand and you say, I'd be ready to make a step up. And I think that is something that for sure we'll take seriously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. We're going to take a question in Spanish from John Rojas. John?
Thank you, Brendan. Dennis, esta pregunta en español, por favor, para ver si me podrías aclarar. Hablaste al principio un poco en inglés de Giovanni, de las responsabilidades de los jugadores de alto perfil, y quedó la sensación de que probablemente la manera como se están dando las cosas en este momento con él en cuanto a compensación y performance no es la que el club pretende de ahora en adelante con usted a la cabeza, porque quizás sería esa una de las herramientas, digamos, para poder darle a Zlatan el estatus que necesitaría ese nuevo contrato.
Mira, yo creo que en el caso de Giovanni es un tema importante de también, con la madurez que ya tiene, con la edad que ya tiene, con todas las experiencias que ya ha vivido, saber primeramente su tema físico, porque no ha podido mostrar todo el talento que tiene en alguna forma u otro en función a su equipo, como es el Galaxy, donde se debe y donde tiene contrato, siendo muy claro y con una comunicación muy abierta, cercano, cuál es lo que él espera del año que viene y lo que también el club espera de él. Yo creo que en cualquier equipo del mundo, cualquier club del mundo, los jugadores de alto perfil, donde se espera muchas cosas y donde se tiene ciertas responsabilidades, él seguro no huye ni se aleja de las responsabilidades que tiene, pero sí necesito, para tener un mayor panorama, también ver su versión y sentarme con él con la confianza que lo tengo, que sea claro y abierto. No significa, como le dije también en inglés, que mi rol o mi relación que podría haber tenido o tiene por ser parte en la selección de México con él impida alguna decisión, porque al final de cuentas lo que a mí me importa que aquí el equipo sigue creciendo, sigue teniendo lo mejor de todo, y obviamente pues hay que ser muy claros que todos los jugadores, independiente de dónde vienen y cómo son, pero tengan responsabilidades y obligaciones hacia el equipo, y después de años que a lo mejor por alguna otra razón, por eso me gustaría realmente sentar y escuchar, no ha sido el potencial que totalmente tiene y que mostró en la primera temporada aquí, obviamente.
Sí, ese es entonces el camino para abrir ese otro spot de jugador franquicia.
Mira, el camino es entender dónde ha estado, entender también la posición del nuevo entrenador hacia él, tener un espacio de mucha formalidad y de responsabilidad del club hacia él, que entendemos dónde está su posición y sus deseos y sus objetivos y sus ilusiones. La verdad no creo que nos impida nada para platicar con él, y siendo honesto, si tengo que ser muy honesto, pues él tiene contrato actualmente con el equipo, entonces hasta ahí no vamos a aventurar o suponer nada, pues seamos claros, platicamos con él y después tomamos alguna decisión junto con el cuerpo técnico instalado y vemos cuál es el futuro de él. Él obviamente tiene muchísimas cosas, como vimos en su primera temporada, para ofrecer, y necesito saber y tener un poquito mayor idea y sentirle un poco más lo que ha pasado en los otros años, porque pues apenas hoy es mi primer día, como dijo el anuncio.
Thanks, John. We're going to take one last question in Spanish from Enrique Gutierrez, and then we're going to finish the call.
Thank you, Brendan. Dennis, buenas tardes, bienvenido, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, ¿y tú, Enrique? Gusto saludarte.
Muy bien, gracias. Dennis, la pregunta es, obviamente es tu primer día, como lo acabas de mencionar, pero pues parece que el trabajo es mucho, no solo porque por los problemas que ya has platicado en inglés un poco, pero levantar a un equipo que ha tenido sus peores temporadas, ¿cómo encaras esto? O sea, ¿cuál va a ser tu aporte para que este equipo regrese a la cima donde tiene que estar?
Ya, pues te agradezco la pregunta, creo que es muy buena. La verdad, el hecho de que el Galaxy, que es un equipo muy reconocido, histórico aquí en MLS, exitoso en muchas épocas, se ha fijado en mí, la verdad me ilusiona mucho. Como te dije, las razones de estar aquí son estos, de trabajar mucho. Siempre he sido alguien que dentro de los proyectos invierta mucho de su tiempo en realmente trabajar. En este momento yo creo que el primer paso sería observar y buscar dentro de la organización donde obviamente se podría mejorar a muy corto plazo, que hay ciertos pendientes en la mesa que se tiene que definir y que se tiene que decidir ya muy pronto para obviamente avanzar, y luego con un poco más de tiempo obviamente tener una clara idea y una evaluación en todas las áreas del club donde podemos crear quizás un fundamento mucho más sólido, donde nuestro comportamiento sea más profesional, donde hay pues pendientes que se tiene que atacar, quizás no directamente, pero para que tenga un éxito a largo plazo, instalar algunos temas en todos los demás áreas que menciono. Pero pues como te dije, pues ya la verdad, el equipo se mide mucho como como debe de ser, la verdad, y sin tener ninguna excusa por resultados y por el éxito en la cancha del primer equipo. Entonces la prioridad es hacia allá, y de ahí vamos bajando a todos los demás áreas donde yo creo que vamos a necesitar mucho apoyo de la gente que están aquí, y reforzar bajo un plan claro cuál es la forma como queremos que la gente nos vean y cómo queremos que la gente nos sientan. Y que yo creo que el hecho de que es un equipo con mucha historia, con muchos éxitos y con mucho nombre, no nada más se tiene que decir. Yo creo que también se tiene que trabajar y se tiene que lograr que realmente pues estás, ¿cómo te podría decir? Que realmente estás en todos los días viviendo eso. Y la verdad yo creo que las prioridades son muy claros, como ya se los mencioné, y lo demás cosas poco a poco, con mucho trabajo y con mucho entusiasmo y con la mejor ilusión, y poniéndome al servicio del equipo, de su directiva y de su gran visión. Yo creo que sería poco a poco que seguro vamos a mejorar.
Ok, muchas gracias, mucho éxito, Dennis, bienvenido.
Agradezco mucho, saludos.
Thank you to everyone for taking the time to join us on the call today. Thanks to Dennis for his time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias a todos.
Thank you.